Ladies and gentlemen, coming from the Gatesworth extended stay in the apartment of Terry Michler is well certified. And the story comes out is that we're going to do an audio of the PowerPoint presentation that Terry did at the celebration of Terry's teams and players for 50 plus years. And a lot of folks said, man, that was really good. And so I felt like we would take the shovel out and dig a little deeper of all the deal of saying it from the get-go. Terry's got a fan club here with all the workers and stuff that come in and take care of his needs and happy-go-lucky, and they have a relationship. It's nice. You get to know people. Not everybody gets to know people at their work, but this is he said, caring and sharing. And that's what Terry has always been as a coach, as a player, is the caring and the sharing of the beautiful game. And he, instead of going down to Brazil, he went over to Holland and brought the Clockwork Orange type of thing. That was really a day-and-day affair. So no pressure to do. You could take the whale off for the first minute or so, and then you won't hear a peep out of me for another hour or so, however long it takes. So here's my friend, Terry Michler. Terry, have at it.
All right, Kevin. We're not going to hear from you. I can't believe that. It wouldn't be right and proper not to hear from you.
Well, I guess I could.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Feel free to jump in whenever you get a hankering.
All right.
So, let me set this up a little bit, I guess. First of all, I was really pleased and honored and grateful to have had that celebration take place. And super special thanks go to Tom Hamelman, who took it upon himself to make this happen, this celebration. So you might say, Tom Hamelman, that's the name I'm not familiar with. Well, I barely was familiar with it also. But Tom and I were teammates at CBC. My junior year, his senior year, we were together on the same team. Happened to be a district championship team, thank you. And didn't have much interactions, junior, senior thing. And I was a North County type guy, and he was a South County guy. So we didn't have really any interactions. But once the situation escalated this year to what it did, he felt like he wanted to do something about it. They have this motto out at the school called Brothers for Life, the motto, Brothers for Life. And he took it upon himself to be a brother and to come to deal with my situation. So he wanted very, very strongly to make sure that what I did and my teams and players got some recognition. So can't start without starting there. So that's the starting point, is that we had a wonderful celebration and honored all the teams and players of the past. And it was through the individual efforts of Tom Hamelman. It wasn't a committee or anything. It was Tom Hamelman that pulled this off. So I hope you listen to this, Tom, and take pride in what you did, and thanks to me for what you did. So we move on. Now, as we get into this rundown of my career, if you will, 2 points I think I have to start with. One is in the in the PowerPoint presentation that I did at the celebration, I had a special slide called "What About Me?" What About Me is all about an incident that happened with my second team in 1973. At the end of the year, we have the awards banquet to wrap up the season and give out some individual awards as needed. And that particular year, 1973, I failed to introduce and announce one of our seniors, Brian Walsh. Thus, the What About Me Brian Walsh Award is forever in effect. And probably no better place than this podcast, because over 52 teams and over 1,200 players. I'm going to forget somebody. I'm not going to mention everybody that might like to be mentioned. And no oversight, just numbers game, right? Get caught up with it.
This is for you, Brian. Way to go.
So if you fall into that what about me category, you got my apologies up front. And if we need to make a list, okay, we'll make a list. The second point that I want to talk about, because we're going to talk about these teams, and one thing every team had in common, they all shared the same common goal. And the goal was to win the state championship at the end of the year. I know for sure that I never had a team that didn't have that goal, okay? Now, not everybody achieved it. Some did, some were close to it, some were nowhere near it, but they all had that goal, okay? So my second point is, I've always preached this, and I firmly believe this. What does it take to win? I think it takes 5 things to win. It takes talent. Nobody argues that. But that alone is never enough. It takes effort. And you can have guys that give great effort. You couldn't ask for any more. But they have very limited talent ability. It only takes you so far. Chemistry, which I think is probably the most important. Chemistry is the interaction and the cooperation amongst the group. Player to player, player to coach, coach to player, the whole bit. Chemistry. Leaders and followers, how everybody gets along. The fourth point is coaching, which kind of provides a map, a guideline. How can we best do this with this group to get the best results? I always use the comparison of a puzzle. Every puzzle has different pieces. Pieces are different shapes and forms and colors. But as different as they are, they have to fit together. And when you put them all together, then you get the final picture. So it might be a 1,000-piece puzzle, or it might be a 50-piece puzzle. But once all the pieces come together, you have one picture. So everything comes together for one. And that's what team building is. Everything comes together for one purpose, for the good of the team, for whatever end goal and end result you're trying to achieve. And then the last point, which you can't argue, is luck. And I use the expression, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And that's true to some point, but not completely, right? You just can't sit there and put your hand out and hope for luck. I mean, you got to make it happen a little bit. And as we go through these teams, and what I did at the presentation night, I went through the different decades, the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s, all those decades. And just kind of jumping the gun a little bit, without a doubt, and the numbers back this up, the 90s was probably, as a decade, the most successful decade of my career. But it didn't provide a state championship. It provided 3 seconds and a third. But it had more wins on the decade. It had more 20-win seasons. And it had more championships. But it didn't win a state championship. And I would offer that luck didn't play a favorable role for us. It kind of worked against us a little bit. So you can have good luck and bad luck, right? And you take the good luck graciously, and scourge, is that the word? I don't know. Scorn the bad luck, because that usually costs you. So That's my intro. That's what I want to get across. So if you're in the "what about me" category, apologize, get over it. And if if you want to know the 5 ways, things that I think can constitute winning, it's talent, effort, chemistry, coaching, and luck. Back to you, Kevin.
Well, I'm going to throw some scientific reasoning your way. Are you sitting down?
I am seated.
All right then. So here it is.
And I'm strapped in, as a matter of fact, so go for it.
All right then. So if you go in, you got to come out. And coming out is luck. And then where? Chemistry? No.
You want the talent, effort, coaching,
Yeah,
chemistry, and luck? Okay, luck, coaching, chemistry, effort, talent.
Wow.
That's like spelling CBC front, upwards and downward, forward and back. Ray Barr used to do that in the pep rallies. Give me a C, give me a B, give me a C. Now give it to me backwards. C, B, C. He had that mastered. But you know what? Part of the story I told about the fact that I even ended up at CBC was that in 8th grade I thought I was going to try to go to St. Louis U High. But the 8th grade nun said, well, you may want to think it over and think about CBC. And I think, well, part of her reasoning was CBC only has 3 letters and SLU has 4. You might be able to manage 3 letters better than 4, so I ended up with a career at CBC. How about
There
that?
you go. And, well, you want me to tell you mine? Mine went down. I don't think you should take the test to go to McBride. I said, okay.
Hell, that's a way more letters than even SLU High of 4. Oh, my God.
But I always wanted to beat CBC. They seemed to be the team at the time, and I wanted to beat them. And so I figured I'd go to McBride. It was right in the neighborhood, north side, baba boom, baba bang, you know, go Irish. And 3 of my brothers went there. So anyway, I was going to go to DeAndre's because my mother said, no way, no how. You'll go down to Northwest High School before you do that. So I took the exam to go to Augustinian Academy. How about that?
That's a name out of the past, way past, distant past.
Yeah. And lo and behold, they welcomed me with open arms, and they had a nice little team, and the school was off the charts. No. And then they come by, they asked us if we won anything. So the story goes is that they said, hey, sorry about it. We're going to close up after a year. And, that's that. So CBC offered at that time for anybody, hey, if you made it to go to Augustinian, come over to CBC. And so some people did, some people didn't. But if I hadn't, it burnt down, after a year. Great fire down in the south side. And so they caught on fire, and then everybody came over to CBC. I graduated with all those guys. So and then I was one of the last military class there. Under full disclosure, I was a head of discipline and morale for the 1st Battalion staff.
I got a life-size picture of that, but
yeah, right. Okay, so that's our histories of how we got this started there, how we got there and stayed there.
Okay, so you wanted to always beat CBC. That's what you grew up wanting to do.
And, yeah, everything in my life, Terry, that was really significant was from CBC grads. So yeah, you go to CBC, and they took me under their wing, and Otherwise, I would have been long gone as don't let the door hit you, you know.
Well, that explains that one goal that you threw into your own goal that one game. You were still trying to beat CBC.
Oh.
I was wondering when you were going to get past that. Still want to beat CBC.
Oh.
I think I should have reminded you. Now you're playing for CBC.
Yes. Oh, that was at CBC. Then I did the double. I think I did it twice.
Yeah.
At Colt Park underneath the lights.
It felt so good the first time, you wanted to do it a second time. I think you go down the goalkeeping record book for the only goalie to score twice in your own goal.
Possibly. It's like being in the All-Star game my senior year. People said, they didn't even start the high school. I said, we sure did. But lo and behold, the reason why is because of gloves. It was right at the end of wearing gloves, not wearing gloves, and it was a muddy, rainy type of night. And then they had the jock, the clowns jumping in front of you and stuff, Oh, so because you never knew if the referee if you would throw the ball and hit him in the face and go in, if they would charge a goal or say, yeah. So this is a good excuse. Is that a good? Well, anyway.
Oh, well, Kevin, I've never heard any of that before.
All right, then.
Thanks for sharing those deep, dark secrets with us. So, okay, we got all the preliminary stuff out of the way. I guess we can roll tide now and get going with the program. So, my understanding when Kevin asked me about doing this was that some of the people wanted to break the decades down more into the actual years themselves. Is that correct, Kevin? Kevin,
full disclosure.
Kevin's looking at me like, what are you talking about? Anyway, let me roll here.
Some of the surveys I take is me, myself, and I.
Ah, okay. Let's go through the 70s. My first year, my first decade, my first team. It was a good one. They finished the year 25-4-3, and won the league championship, which we had back then was the St. Louis High School Soccer League. We won that championship. Lost in the finals of the district tournament and lost in the finals of the CYC Christmas tournament, both times to SLU High. But what a talented group of players we had back then. Tom Walsh, who to this day still remains as the leading scorer in my era with 32 goals scored. I've had a number of guys that scored 20 goals, but nobody's topped 32, so credit to Tom Walsh for doing that. A couple of stories about that first team. The first story happened right away early in the year, probably about the 5th or 6th game of the year. We played Normandy High School, and we played them at Pagedale Park, which was near Normandy. And we played on a baseball field. So baseball fields, have infields, right? And we played after a couple of rainy days. And we didn't have turf back then like these boys today have turf. So we played on the field with the rain, with the mud, with everything else. And we lose the game to Normandy 3-2. And Normandy was a good team back then, the year after they won the state championship. But we lose because we slipped in the mud. So I had always understood that you take from the game what you need to work on in practice, and then you try to improve it for the next game. So we come out of the game losing because we slipped in the mud. So it only made sense to me that we needed to learn how to run in the mud. So the next practice, we're at Forest Park behind the Jewel Box where we always practiced. They had like 4 soccer fields back there, but they also had 4 softball fields. And the softball fields had dirt infields, no grass. And they had team benches on first and third base line, and they had a big backstop. So we were going to get used to running in the mud that day. So I had the boys line up and start at the first base bench, jump over the bench, run across the muddy infield, jump the third base bench, run behind the backstop, and just keep repeating it until we got all the way down to dirt. We got through all the mud and got down to dirt. Then we found another infield, and we just repeated that until we didn't have any more mud to run into. So at the end of the practice, I made them run around the whole complex again in the mud after they'd been in the mud the whole time. So they were much less than happy campers with me, and they were fighting at the bit to see who was going to be able to take me apart. They were not happy with me at all. But we didn't slip in the mud the rest of the year, so I guess that worked out. Second story that year, in January, was the annual National Soccer Coaches Convention. And it's probably the largest soccer coaches organization in the world. It has more members than any other organization worldwide. And this year, it was hosted in St. Louis. So we invited the coaches to come out. We were playing St. Louis U High in a night game during the time of the convention. But it had snowed heavily previous to that day. And then on the day leading up to it, it was a sunny, warm day, and the snow melted. So we had a field that was waterlogged, and we had these coaches dying to come out and watch the game. So we had a parent booster club that took it upon themselves to make the field as playable as possible. What they did was they threw a bunch of straw down on the field to dry up and absorb the water. So we played the game on a wet, somewhat muddy, straw-laden field, and pretty much impressed the coaches with the quality of play that we had under those conditions. So that was the first year. That was getting us off and going. Year 2, 72-73, we dropped down, had about half the record we had the year before. We went from 25 wins to 12, 4 losses to 8, 3 ties to 4. So we went 12-8-4. Not very spectacular. But here we go again. Luck plays into this a little bit. The team scored a total of 30 goals on the year, which is really low. Leading scorer was Denny Bezeski with 5 goals. We had 3 or 4 guys that had 4 assists. That was the most on the assist scale. 8 games we lost by 1 goal, and we only scored 30 goals in 24 games. You know, that's not even a goal and a half a game. So, you know, you don't win too many games like that. We had 9 shutouts against us. So goals were hard to come by. But that team probably had more players that played professionally than any other team that I've had. Don Draghi, for instance, played on 7 different NASL teams during his career. Kevin Egan played with Tampa Bay Rowdies and did quite well, had a great career. Dave Dolphus, Denny Bezeski, Jimmy Roth, all played professionally at some point somewhere along the line with some NASL team. So it was a good team. They just didn't have much luck. The following year we go to 10-7-6. So we picked up a little bit, not much. 2 fewer losses. 2 fewer wins, one fewer loss. Here again, though, we're just kind of trying to find ourselves. It was a young team. We had 5 seniors on the team, 8 juniors and 9 sophomores. So it was a team that we were going to build on. Team lost in the district final in overtime. Jimmy Roth scored the quickest goal in CBC soccer history, 6 seconds against the Berg. Quickest goal we ever had scored. The following year, 74-75, is the year of the Whales. It was Kevin's senior year, and they upped 14-5-5, which was a nice rebound, and really was the start of the turnaround that we needed to get going. It was also the last winter season. So the first few years it was played in the winter. In 1975 in the fall, the season transitioned from winter to fall. So we had a 74-75 team, and then we had a fall of 75 team. So Kevin was on a team with just a short team, only had like 18 players on the team that year. Had 5 seniors in the group. Kevin was one of them. Mike Kelly, Rich Wardak, Mark Kraus, Jimmy Gasparovic, all nice players. And had 9 juniors on the team to help out. Following year 75 fall, we had a lot of talent, probably the most talent we had after the first team. But we also had a lot of injuries. But they went keeping the progression of victories. They went from 14 wins to 16. So they finished 16, 10, and 1. And a lot of household names in there. Tom Malley was in that team. Paul Turin was our goalie. And just to show you how ironic it was, Paul Turin was a goalie. He broke his finger. And with a broken finger, it's hard to play goal. So Mike Freitag had to fill in for goal for a while. Pat Carney was on the team. Mike Bono, Mike Verzino, Danny Mann, Tommy Gherkin, Jeff Sandobri, Chris Sealflesh, on and on. Steve Westbrook, Kyle White were younger guys. My brother Tom was in the team. It was a good team. Just struggled to win enough games. But again, injuries were a big part of that year for sure. Then the next year, 76, we go 14-6, and we started to close the gap a little bit. Steve Westbrook, Kyle White, Danny Summers were the seniors on that team. 77, we dropped off again, though. Went back to 11-10. And again, as I said, remember, there's 5 factors involved in this process. It's talent, it's effort, it's chemistry, it's coaching, and it's luck. Sometimes you have a little more talent. Sometimes you get a little more effort. Sometimes you have a little bit better chemistry. There's always a reason why it works and why it doesn't work, okay? So, and it's always an extremely competitive situation in St. Louis high school soccer. Everybody wants to beat the next team whenever they can. And we have always had a target on our back, and that never has changed over all the years. So 77 was 11-10, just barely kept above water. But then we bounced back in 78, won our first district with 17 wins. 79, we got 22 wins, and kind of getting our feet settled down. That was a big turning point. 78 was the big turning point. Jay White and Randy Ragsdale, Dave Kircher were among those guys. In 79, Darryl Duran was a freshman, and Mike Menendez was with him. And that team had 97 goals scored for, which was quite a bit. It was probably our best offensive effort that we had through the 70s. So they were 22-6-1. And both 78 and 79 teams reached the Final Four, which was a first. We needed to get there to know what that was all about, and we did. Then we roll up into the 80s, and boy, the 80s was a good decade for us. 80 and 81 were in the final. We lose. 82 we missed. 83, 84, 85 we're in the finals again. We win in 83, 84. We lose in 85 in the last 17 seconds. We're back in the final again in 88 and win. So do the math. We had 3 up, 3 down. 6 finals in the 80s, which was incredibly successful under any conditions, and a real rebound and resurrection from the 70s, where we managed to get 2 district championships out of the decade, and that was all. But in the 80s, we came up with guys like Menendez and Duran and Bob McCormick, and difference makers. Mike England was in that group. Mike was a 4-year goalkeeper for us, and those kind of guys make a difference. We had Craig Westbrook in the 81 team. 81 went 80 went 25 wins. That was the first time we did that since the 1971 team. So it took quite a while to get back to it, but they did. And then the 80s, we just really, really took off. 81, we were 18-6. And 82, we dropped down to 14-7. But 83 and 84, we bounced right back with 24 wins and 23 wins. I told the 83 team, as we were going through the season, and we got to the district playoffs, and we won the districts, and we got into the state tournament. And I'd had 10 plus years to think this over because it's the first time since I started there in 71 that we got to a state championship game. So my suggestion was, I've really thought this over, guys. Had a lot of time to think it over. And my best suggestion to you is this. Score the first goal. Okay, that always helps. Second point, get a shutout. Okay? If you put them together, if you score the first goal and get a shutout, the worst case scenario, the end result is 1-0. And then you win. So score the first goal, get a shutout, win state. We went through the first goal, got first goal every game. We had 6 shutouts out of 6, and happily won the state championship. So that was pretty good advice, wasn't it? The 83 team also had a situation involved where we had a big old champagne bottle that was gifted to us from Bill Draghi, an alum and a chiropractor who treated a lot of our players, myself included, at different times, and had given me this humongous bottle of champagne sometime previous, I don't know, probably a couple of years ahead. And I kept it in the office. I had no idea what to do with it. We get to the final, I thought, oh, why not? So we took it out to the game, put it in a igloo, put some ice on it, kept it chilled. And we win the game. We get the bottle out, open it up, start spraying like everybody does with champagne. We started spraying it. And I'm sure somebody along the line took a sip or two out of it. And next thing I know, we get a letter from the state, the Missouri State High School Athletic Association, chastising us for providing alcohol at a high school event. So we had to handle that, for a while and got our wrists slapped. But they didn't take the championship away, and we moved on. But anyway, that was the storyline there. One more interesting storyline in that 83 team, just to show you that coaches don't know everything. Remember I said coaching was one of the criteria for winning. So in the spring of the year before, I asked my assistant coach, Bill Belcher, I gave him a piece of paper with a couple of questions on it. And one question was, I asked Bill, and I had given this a lot of thought myself, I said, what does this team need to do to be 500 next year? This is the team of the 83 team. What does the 83 team need to do to be 500? Well, they answered that question for us because they went 24-1. They weren't worried about no 500. So how much does coaching play into it when the coach is that far off base? Holy cow. Yeah, they showed me real good, didn't they? 24-1, and I'm looking for 500. Kevin, you got an interlude point?
Oh, I'm all ears.
Okay.
Good so far.
So far, so good, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so we move on to 84. 84 was a gifted team. That was the year of John Johnson and Dave Gavane were seniors, along with Sean Sprung, Pat Long, and a whole host of others, right? And it was a combination of players that were behind them a year.
If I may,
Yeah.
it comes over. This is the time to say it. The ship is sailing, so here it is. My brother, God rest his soul, came up to me and said, "Hey, you were a captain." And I says, "You, Mr. Funny Gates, And he says, "No, in the record books, because his nephew, I guess, was John O'Brien, and he won the state championship."
Right.
And so anyway, he says, "Yeah, man, they got you a list, and you were a captain." No, it was me. We didn't have any captain that year, and we hold this distinguished, Brian Walsh Award, because that was the only team you never. Nobody voted, nobody gave it your captainship. And the last thing was, O'Brien tells my brother, Yeah, Kevin's on the record book with 11 shutouts. And I went, oh, what? Did we? And yeah, you're in it. And later, I come to find out that was because of your rank. You didn't go back to the guys that had 30 shutouts.
Yeah, no, it was those records were always just my era records.
Yeah.
Right.
And you, when you played, your team had 15 consecutive shutouts.
Right. I think it was 16 actually, if we're counting. But no, I couldn't try. Well, you know what? To develop that point a little bit more, when I took over, one of the first things I did was I reached out to my previous coach, Coach Hargan, who was no longer at CBC at the time, and I asked for any statistics that he had to share with me. And on the back of some work order from school on a little 3x5 piece of paper, he wrote some meaningless rhetoric that he was good at, basically saying, I don't have time for this. You're on your own. Goodbye. Good luck. So I never got any cooperation from him about that. So I didn't feel right keeping records that I didn't have couldn't accurately justify. So I did start on my own record keeping when I got there. And so what you say is true, and it's based on the years that I had. And remember, you were about 4 or 5 teams into my coaching career there.
Yeah.
And then this is another 4 or 5 teams after you. So within the first 10 to 12 years, those numbers for you were good. Now, where they might be today, I don't know.
Oh,
but,
yeah. But I have to say, how about like John Bazzani? How many goals did he have back in the day?
I think pretty sure it's 54.
In one season?
Yeah.
And they played like 28 games, maybe?
Oh, no, they would have played more. Well, the year before I took over, they were 39, 2 and 2. 39, 2 and 2.
Right.
And my teams, when I played, we regularly played 30 to 35 games.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. But John was a scoring machine. And on the same team, Tim McAvoy is the third leading scorer of all time at CBC. So John and Tim were 1 and 3 on the same team. So they must have scored 150 goals that year or something.
And the meat and the sandwich was Carl Chantilly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Carl had it previously till John came, and nobody will ever touch. Like I said, my best ever in 52 years was Tom Walsh with 32. So it's a good total, but it's far cry from 54, that's for sure. So John O'Brien, who you mentioned, was on the 84 team. And along with the Johnny Johnson and Dave Gavain and Sean Sprung and John Hummel and many, many others. It was a good team.
Yeah.
And they were supported by a bunch of good juniors that in 85 won 25 games and finished second in the state in the last 17 seconds of the regulation time. Got scored on, gave up a goal. So I have this policy that I use called flag. It's a tactic called flags. At the 4 corners of the field there are flags to mark the corner kick area, right? Flags. So my tactic of flags was when I holler out flags, kick the ball to a flag, meaning kick it in at a corner of the field. So we have the ball with 30 seconds to go at the half line. We have the ball. I'm hollering out flags. But our player decides he needed to take one more guy on before he played the flag. Well, the guy stripped him of the ball, and they played it in 1, 2, 3 goal. They scored. So we go into overtime, and it's back and forth overtime. But they get a ball down the left sideline. Their winger runs it down to the end line. He's the only guy anywhere near the goal. Crosses the ball into the middle of the field. Still no Aquinas guy in sight. Ball comes to Kenny Godad, our sweeper. He goes to clear it with his right foot. We're playing at Lindenwood University now, as they're called. And the turf back then was not the best. Ball hit a seam as it came to Kenny. He swung his right foot, ball went over his foot and missed it. Hit the inside of the heel of his left foot and trickled inside the near post for a game-winning goal. So we lose there not only 17 seconds, but we lose on a game-winning goal. And you talk about the luck, right? Go back to luck. The ball hits the seam, bounces over Kenny's kicking foot, hits the inside of the back foot, trickles into the goal. That's bad luck no matter how you slice it, right? For sure. So 86 rolls around and we drop off 15 and 13. Won the district, but that was as good as we could do.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Something, Coach. It was commonly said, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any.
There you go, man. That's right. That's very true. That's what the teams in the 90s would have said for sure, because they didn't have much good luck. Yeah. So in 86, it was 15. We started 6 sophomores in 86, so it was kind of a rebuilding year. After all the guys we lost in the 85 team, Mark Santel, Kenny Godat, Jamie Saddle, Dave Fortner, Pat Ruprecht, Tim Konski, John O'Brien, Joey Hummel, Craig Berry, Mark Learman, and a freshman, Doug Ferrario. About that, young freshman. So the 86 team, like I said, it was at the kind of the end of the big rush that we had, but it had a bunch of sophomores on it that did well. And 86 team, here's an interesting stat. Started the year out 0-5, but still were ranked number 5 in the weekly poll. At 0-5, they're ranked 5th. I guess that's to respect the respected CBC soccer had back then. So they rallied after being 0-5 and finished up with 15 wins on the year anyway. So 87 rolls around. We're back up, 24 wins. Brian McAvoy, Doug Kriska were the senior captains on that team. Tony Kalika was on that team. Brian McAvoy was the MVP. Tony Kalika was given the dedication award. And it was ironic, but Tony's son played for us on one of our championship teams. And Tony, in his senior year, wrote a really neat article in his English class called The Bench. And he elaborated what it was like to be on the bench, because he was a backup goalie. And backup goalies usually spend more time on the bench than they do on the field, because it's not a interchangeable position like other player positions are. But Tony wrote this article for his English class called The Bench. It was really, really well done. I kept a copy of it. Really meaningful. And when you talk about special people doing special things, being able to create something about the bench and the significance of the bench and what all that involves and entails is something really, really special. I was really impressed by it, very moved by it.
And Coach, as far as full disclosure, later on, I forgot what years, but he became the president of CBC.
He was the president of the board of directors.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
And the year that Tony's son was on our team and was the state champion. Yeah. Tony was obviously at the ceremony, the banquet, and I had Tony present the dedication award to the winner of it for that team. So one winner presented to another winner. That was pretty neat. Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah, that was special.
Yeah, it was. All right.
So then the next step in the journey is the team of 88. 83 was the team that first won the championship, so I single them out all the time. And 88 was the team that I had the most fun with, so I singled them out. They got me to go to a Poison concert with them one time, and that was nothing short of crazy. And those guys, yeah, they were fun. They couldn't do anything without having fun doing it. But those guys were fantastic guys. Mark Dooley and Doug Ferrario were 4-year lettermen on that team, and we returned 15 guys from the previous team. And this team scored 101 goals on the year and only gave up 16 with 19 shutouts. Wow. Kevin, 19 shutouts, yeah. Man. But more nicknames. Everybody on that team had a nickname. It was unbelievable. not only were they a bunch of guys that could enjoy having a good time, they also could play very, very well. And when it came time to play, they were nothing but serious. Beat Rockhurst in the final that year at the soccer park on field 2 because it was rained out of field 1, the main field, which was grass then. Played on 2, and Tom Edgar scored a winning goal, assisted from Kevin Hennessy. And then 89 closed out the decade with another 21-win season with 12 seniors, Pat Mann, Ryan DeGrand, Tom Edgar, Gary Immig, Billy Spinks, Scott Hobart, Dave Corbett, and others made up that group. And again, a good group of juniors, Billy Baumhoff, Chris Santel, Kevin Brown. So you kind of get the picture here now that when one group left, there was another group in place to take their place. So I think today what we're going to do is just kind of leave it at the 70s and 80s and then pick it up next time with the 90s because that needs its own attention because that was a period of time that was extremely successful. But as successful as they were unlucky. Unlucky when it mattered the most important, which is very important. So we're going to leave it at that for today. Kevin, back to you.
Well, I tell you, it just came down. There's 46 minutes into the pod, and you had some shenanigans with Whalen, but it was right there, just like a game.
Yeah, first half is over, right?
Yeah, man.
First half.
Yeah.
But the 90s and the 2000s, that's 3 more decades of complete success. So
yeah,
it'll be a good stories to tell after on those years as well.
And many a time I had was off to the side hearing somebody would drop a name and say, "Are you his son? Is that your father?" You would name off
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
And he would say, "Yeah," or "That's my uncle," Is that you? I remember going out to watch you on Clayton Road, and I asked you about the 2 Ernsts. And Eddie Ernst, we grew up in the same neighborhood
Yeah.
with his wife, Karen.
Chase and Chance.
Yeah. And you were shocked. I said, they got married right out of high school, so the arithmetic adds up, But that's a crazy. Now, have you ever done a grandfather and a?
No, not yet. No, I'm done. So that won't happen.
Yeah.
That won't happen.
But you've done a lot of fathers, and it was really something that the fathers and the sons were state champions.
Yeah, only one occurrence of that with Kevin and Brendan Hennessy.
Is that the
father
only
and son?
one?
Yeah.
Because when I see him, I think of that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that at CBC, when you mentioned when you played, it was district final.
Right.
So your teams, what year did you play? Well, that's the year they didn't win the district, or you can't. And at CBC being one of them, I kind of like, I didn't win state. It really, it's not, you look at it realistically, but it is an obvious.
To kind of elaborate a little bit more of what you're saying, at some point during my career, I decided to create a rank order of the teams. And it was done very unbiased, okay? Because otherwise it's not, do I think this team was better than that one? Or no. I made the criteria so that everybody had the same advantage/disadvantage. So what I did was I gave 1 point for every victory. No, wait a minute. 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, -1 for the losses, 2 points to win a tournament, 3 points if they got to the semifinals, 4 points if they won the state championship. So you had an opportunity to get points in a lot of different ways, right? The more wins you got, the more 3 points you got. 3 points for a win. The most wins I had for a team was 32. So that team automatically just on wins, got 96 points. And then did they go anywhere in the tournaments? Did they lose any games? They lost 2 games, so they had 2 points deducted from their 96. But then they won. They got to the third place game. They won the third place game. So they got extra points for that, okay? Some teams, were not so fortunate. One team ended up with a record of 10 and 11. So they got 10 times 3 is 30 points, minus 11 was 19. I think they won one tournament, so they got like 21. So every team was under the same standard. That I thought had to be done to make everything fair. So when I say here's the rank order, and I told every team this, it's at the end of the year when it's all said and done, your team, your year, your record is going to be a line on the chart. Where are you going to be in relation to the other 52 teams? And you can't alibi, you can't excuse, you can't argue, because everybody had the same opportunities. It's 3 points for a win, 1 for a tie, minus 1 for a loss, 2 for winning tournaments, up to 4 for winning state tournament. Everybody had the same opportunity. How far did you go? So as we speak, I have that. It's in print. It's available. It's in the booklet that we gave out at the celebration night. Team 1 through 52. It's all right there. It's all right there.
Right. And I mean to tell you, I was there. I said, Mamma mia, that's something. Is how you say your record, and that team and other teams, they lose by 1 goal. Had they won half of them, their record would totally change. And if they won all of them, they would be like, holy God, what a great team.
Well, you got 9 teams that we're talking about, right? So they lose the game, so they got minus 9 points for losing games. Had they scored 1 more goal and won all those games, they would have had 27 points. So they would have possible 27 down to a minus 9. So that difference was 36 points difference in those results of the 1 goal result.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
That'd make you think twice, wouldn't it?
Oh, I'm telling you, G-Money.
Yeah.
And, you can't go with lame-brain excuses, but the reality of it, I mean, those teams, I remember my first championship with you. Really, it was one of my first full year.
And that team that we're talking about finished 48th on the chart with a total of 32 points.
Wow.
Now, do the math. They had 9 games there, lost by a goal. Take minus 9 off and put 27 on, and that would have taken them 59 points. That would have taken them up to number 31. So they would have jumped from 48 to 31.
There you go. But it was within the last minute of the game, and we were on the bench together, and everything, without a doubt's going our way. We're up 2-0. And I said, Coach, congratulations. And you immediately got a face on you. It's not over yet. I lost a state championship with 17.
I was going to say, let me tell you the story why I had that game face on. It was the 85 season. John Brazel was part of the 84 season. He came down, I still remember this, came down to the fence at Lindenwood behind the bench. Coach, how's it feel to win 3 in a row? 30 seconds to go in the game. Oh, it feels great, Braz. Unbelievable. 17 seconds in the game, it didn't feel so good. So it ain't over till it's over, says Yogi. It's not over till it's over. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But speaking of that 2-0, that was a Chaminade game.
Yeah.
And as I walked up and down that bench towards the end of the game, the sideline in front of the bench towards the end of the game, I could feel the heartbeats of the players.
It was.
It was amazing, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And I remember you running across, we were both going across the field, and you say, man, this is not to be missed, is it?
Yeah.
Because everything. It
Wow.
just was crazy.
I mean, that was the year where we had to play in Blue Springs, suburb of Kansas City. We played Rockhurst in the semifinal on basically their home turf because they're a Kansas City team. We had more students at the game than they did.
Yeah.
We beat them in the game. Then we played Chaminade, who arguably was the very best team in the year that year.
Yeah, they were the model.
They had Tom Barlow up as a striker that's still playing in the MLS to this day. You know, great player. They had a great team. They were the best. And our goal that year was to be the best of the rest. And if we played the best, give them our best. You know, go beat them. No, we did. We ended up beating them 2-0. And I'm sure that Chaminade thought that they were going to get more out of the game than they did, but our guys did a great job. They really did a great job.
It was 2-0 at half.
Yeah.
And then you say, hey, what do you want to do? You want to go this way or that way?
Yeah.
They said, we want to go that way.
Yep. We knew how they were going to play, so it's like let them have the ball. Just don't let them get in behind you with it. That's all.
Yeah.
But LJ Adjuwane got the first goal, who was our go-to guy that year. But the icing on the cake came from Max Keeley, who was a sub.
Yeah.
They got that separating goal at 2-0. That was a head ball goal. It was a great goal.
With the assist by LJ.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes.
Wow.
And then I realized I thought I was not making a scene, but all throughout the year there was always student support, you know. And I kind of, you know, would always hoop and yell with them and everything. So they line up against the fence for the entire length of the field. And I started and went to high five them all, you know, way to go, Wales,
Yeah.
you know. And he said, a coach over saying, hey, coach wants you. I said, what the hell was wrong? He said, man, you're making a scene. All the kids are opening the house and they're handing out the medals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You needed to get out there and get your credit, get your just due.
Yeah.
I got one more story. The 84 team won the championship. And we're playing DeSmet at Lindenwood on a Monday night because Saturday the scheduled time for the game, we had bad weather conditions. It was a frozen field, so they put it off to Monday. Field wasn't much better. It was playable, but not by much. So Sean Sprung scores the first goal in the game. Second goal is a scramble in front of the DeSmet goal. Mike Gallagher and Sean Sprung arrive at the ball at the same time. They both kick at the ball. Mike Gallagher actually scores the goal, kicks the ball in it. Sean, being the gamer that he always was, as soon as the ball went in the goal, he sprinted over to the sideline, getting everybody's attention, pounding his fist into the air, telling everybody, acting like he scored the goal. Everybody congratulated him. The paper interviewed him after the TV interviewed him after the game. The paper had it in the next day. He scored 2 goals. I'm researching for this celebration night. I go back to that year. The yearbook says within 29 seconds, Sean Sprung scores 2 goals in the final. So I see Mike Gallagher the next morning at school. I remember this, and I said, Mike, you scored that second goal, didn't you? He goes, yeah. I said, how come you didn't make a big deal about it? He goes, it didn't matter. As long as we scored, it counted. I didn't care. Sean saw it the other way, though. Sean had that, look at me.
But that's the beauty of it all. And all those years, it doesn't seem, really, I close my eyes and I'm almost right back there. I'm transported back.
Yeah.
But hats off to you, Coach. You came in as I guess a Puma wearing stud of a player. That you had the best shoes, the best track shoes, and you would practice with everybody.
Oh yeah.
Over there at the Joe Box when the university. We played.
Yeah.
There, and running it around. We didn't run that hill like they did, but we sat underneath that tree for tryouts.
Oh yeah.
And that one water fountain they had in the middle. And that's a beautiful field now, you know. But every time I go by there, blood, sweat, and tears of doing what we need to do.
That was back in the day when we had two-a-day practices, and we had them kind of like back-to-back. We took like an hour and a half break in between, and everybody would go out and find lunch somewhere. We could leave 50 soccer balls scattered all over the field, wherever the ball rolled to its last movement, and leave them for an hour, unsupervised, and come back and nothing would be disturbed.
Nothing.
That's how far back in time we're talking. Yeah. Imagine doing that anywhere today.
I don't know.
Yeah, those were good times. I tell you, my recollection and my memories of the 70s, particularly the 70s and the 80s, were so incredibly good. And I think, I looked at that 83 team. Bill, what do we got to do to be 500? I asked Bill Belcher, what do we got to do to be 500? They go 24-1. And the difference was they had great leadership in Charlie Clark and Dan Cordia, and Johnny Johnson was a junior. Great leadership. Charlie Clark probably was the most impactful striker I've ever had.
Wow.
Now, did Charlie Clark score a lot of goals? No. Did Charlie Clark do something to create a lot of goals? Yes. And what I mean by what I said here about Charlie is that he was extremely unselfish in terms of his movements would create opportunities for somebody else. Charlie wouldn't even have to touch the ball. I would give him assists when he didn't even touch the ball.
Nice.
Because his movement was such that it created the next opportunity for somebody to score.
Wow.
Totally unselfish.
Yeah.
And Dan Cordia was a tough nut boy. Talk to Jim Miller about Dan Cordia, and I'm going to tell you story after story. But Danny was the goalie, and at the end of the tournament, we had 6 shutouts. I grabbed the game ball and gave it to Danny. I said, "Go take that home with you. That's yours. You didn't let any in the tournament, so you get to keep the ball."
Under full disclosure, I gotta ask to tell you, it was unbelievable. After school, leaving CBC and running down Clayton Road, or running the side streets, going through the park, hitting the jewel box across the street, playing, and then running back.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And that was winter time too. You never knew what kind of weather you were gonna get.
Yeah, and Dick Westbrook said, "Wills, do you remember?" And I said, "No, I don't." But he said the ball got kicked over. We were playing at Aviation Field, and the ball got kicked over into the traffic.
Oh.
And you remember Highway 40 used to be stuck bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
And I ran and got the ball. I ran and jumped over the ball to get the ball. And then, oh my God! And I said, "Well, don't keep the ball. You keep it going, because it was always the goalkeeper getting the ball."
Yeah. Wow. So many stories, right, Whale? So many stories.
So we'll leave it at that, and we'll be back. And but before we go, it's always a custom to say, "Hey, man, Terry, whatever you want to say to who you ever want to say it to, for as long as you want to say it for. This is your time."
All right, Wales. First of all, kudos to you for what you do with this podcast. I love listening to him, just like everybody else does that listens to him. Your outreach has grown so much. I remember back when we were doing the first one, you were wondering, where's this going to go? Well, what do you end up with, about 300 and something now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 365.
Oh, 400's the next marker coming up. Wow. So, you know what? You're doing a great job, and you get people on here that I go like, how does he know this person, right? You talk to people like you've known them forever, even though it's the first time you might have ever met them. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And you got a great way about doing it. You put people at ease. You get good information. You have a good rapport. So that's fantastic. So I just want to give you a shout out for that. So that's really, really special that you do that. And secondly, just from me to you and everybody else, as I said at the celebration, I have been blessed with my career. I never expected anything close to what I got. I got way more than I deserved, for sure. I'm the lucky one because I got to be a part of so many good things. And, you know, memories are yours to keep forever, and I got a whole lot of them. So, no, I'm a happy camper. I'm thankful and appreciative for all those kids that made it happen, you know, being unselfish and being able to work together. The highs and the lows, goods and the bads, they all come together, you know. They all shake out at the end. So thanks to everybody for everything you did to make that possible for all of us. Appreciate it.
Hip hip, hip hip hooray! All right then. Cheerio, bro.
All right, good job.